Everyone in Dudley Hollow knew about the witch. They didn't always call her that. Older residents preferred softer names. The woman in the woods, the one who waits, the watcher. But the younger people, those who hadn't grown up listening to the town's warnings, had simplified the story over time. To them, it was just the Witch of Dudley Hollow. The legend was simple. If you walked deep enough into the forest, past the narrow trails and the leaning birch trees, you might see her. She wore white. She moved between the trees without sound. And if she followed you, you were never supposed to turn around. Because if you looked directly at her, she would know you could see her. And then you would never leave the woods again. The story had been told for generations, which was exactly why Mara Kessler didn't believe a word of it. Mara was 17, sharp-tongued and proudly skeptical of anything that smelt like superstition. She had grown up in Dudley Hollow her entire life, and to her, the town's stories were just another symptom of small-town boredom. Ghosts, witches, cursed woods. It was ridiculous. The forest surrounding Dudley Hollow was big, yes. Old, certainly. But at the end of the day, it was still just trees. Trees didn't hunt people. Trees didn't whisper. Trees didn't keep you from leaving. And there definitely wasn't some phantom woman drifting between them waiting to drag people into the dark. The whole story had probably started decades ago when someone got lost hiking. That's how these things always started. Fear, misunderstanding. Then the town filled in the blanks. By the time Mara heard the story for the 100th time, it had become something almost theatrical, and she was tired of it. It started at the diner. A group of them had been sitting in a booth. Mara, her friend Leah, and two others from school, half listening to the local gossip that floated around the room like cigarette smoke. Outside, the forest loomed at the edge of town the way it always had. A black wall of trunks and branches. Leah had been the one to bring it up. My grandma says the witch was seen again last night. Mara rolled her eyes. Your grandma also thinks microwaves give you cancer. She does not. She literally does. Leah leaned forward. You laugh now, but people have seen her. My uncle says your uncle also drinks mouthwash when the liquor store closes. That earned a few laughs from the others. Leah crossed her arms. You think it's fake? Yes. Completely fake? Leah, Mara said, leaning back into the booth. It's a ghost witch living in the woods. Of course it's fake. Leah narrowed her eyes. Then prove it. Mara blinked. Prove what? That there's nothing out there. Mara followed her gaze toward the forest beyond the diner window. Dark. Silent. Waiting. She shrugged. Fine. They went the next night. Not because Mara felt like she had anything to prove, but because the small challenge had been made. And because a small part of her enjoyed the idea of finally shutting the whole thing down. Leah refused to go. The others made excuses. So, Mara went alone. Which was exactly how she preferred it. The trailhead sat just beyond the last houses in town. A wooden sign marked the entrance: Dudley Hollow Forest Preserve. Beneath it, someone had carved another phrase years ago. The wood had splintered with age, but the message was still readable. Don't follow the laughter. Mara snorted when she saw it. Very subtle. She pulled out her phone and began recording. All right, Internet, she said to the camera. Tonight, we're debunking the legendary Witch of Dudley Hollow. The flashlight beam from her phone cut through the darkness as she stepped onto the trail. Behind her, town lights faded quickly. Ahead, the forest swallowed everything. At first, it was exactly what she expected. Trees, leaves crunching beneath her boots, the faint rustle of wind moving through the canopy. She walked deeper and deeper, occasionally glancing back at the camera. No witches yet, she said after about 20 minutes, shockingly. But the deeper she went, the quieter the woods became. Not just quiet, still. The insects stopped. The wind faded. Even the creaking branches seemed to hold their breath. The silence was so complete that Mar could hear her own heartbeat. She lowered the phone. Okay, that was strange. She turned around. The trail behind her looked different. It had to be the angle, or the darkness. But the path she'd walked seemed narrower now. The trees closer together. Mara frowned. Whatever. She kept walking. Another 10 minutes passed. Then she noticed the first lantern. It hung from a low branch ahead of her. An old metal lantern. The kind people used before electricity. Inside, a weak amber glow flickered. Mara stared at it. That's weird. She approached, slowly. The lantern swayed gently as if disturbed by movement. But the air around her was completely still. She lifted her phone camera toward it. Someone's clearly messing with people. But even as she said it, something about the lantern unsettled her. Because it looked old, not recently hung. The metal was rusted, the glass clouded with grime. And yet the flame inside burned steadily. A sound drifted through the woods. Mara froze. It sounded like laughter. Faint. Distant. Children laughing somewhere far off between the trees. Her skin prickled. That's actually creepy. She tried to laugh, but it came out thin. The sound came again. Further into the forest. Inviting. Mara hesitated. Then she moved toward it. The trail disappeared not long after. The ground became uneven. Roots twisting through the soil, branches brushing against her shoulders. But the laughter continued. Soft, echoing. Always just ahead. She followed it for what felt like half an hour, maybe longer. Time began to feel slippery. Wrong. Eventually, the laughter stopped. The silence that followed felt heavier than before. Mara turned slowly. Okay. The forest stared back. Endless trees, endless shadows. No trail. No lantern. No direction that looked familiar. Her phone screen flickered. Battery warning. 5%. The realization came slowly. She was lost. All right, she muttered. Relax. She just needed to backtrack. Find the lantern, find the trail. Easy. She turned. And that's when she saw her. A pale figure between the trees, standing perfectly still. White dress drifting softly around her legs. Long hair hanging over her face. Mara's breath caught. Hello? The figure didn't move, didn't speak, didn't breathe. Just stood there, watching. Mara laughed nervously. Okay, very funny. No response. You can come out now. Still nothing. Mara stepped closer. The figure seemed wrong somehow. Not like a person, more like a shape, a suggestion of someone standing there. She took another step. The figure dissolved. Gone. Like fog burned away by sunlight. Mara blinked. What the? The ground shifted beneath her feet. A low creaking sound echoed through the woods. Branches bending, trunks groaning. Mara turned slowly. The trees were moving, not swaying, leaning, bending inward, closing. And suddenly she understood. The witch wasn't real. There had never been a witch. The town had invented her, because the truth was too big, too impossible, too terrible. The forest was alive. The laughter returned, but now it came from everywhere, from the branches, from the ground, from the roots beneath her feet. Mara ran. Branches whipped across her arms, roots snagged her boots. The trees seemed to shift each time she turned, paths opening, then sealing shut, guiding her deeper and deeper. Eventually she stopped, breathing hard, lost, completely. The lantern from earlier appeared again ahead of her, still burning, waiting. Mara stared at it. Her shoulders sagged. Oh, she whispered. I get it now. The flame flickered. The forest creaked softly around her, like something settling, like something satisfied. Mara Kessler was never seen again. The town searched for days, then weeks, but they never found her. Eventually, people stopped looking. And the story of the Witch of Dudley Hollow continued. Because it was easier that way. Easier than admitting the truth. Months later, a hiker, wandering too far from the trail, paused in confusion. Something hung from a tree branch ahead. A lantern, burning softly in the dust. And beside it, a pale shape between the trees. Watching. Waiting. Not moving. Like it had always been there. and always would be.